What's wrong, Gabe? I'm just burnt out. What do you mean? I've been running games and I love doing it. It's awesome, but I'm burnt out. Can you elaborate? A little? It's hard to say. I've loved telling the stories I've been telling and I am excited to see where they go, but I don't know. I just can't focus. Yeah, you're tired. Yeah, I get it. You do? There's no single answer to this. Yeah, I didn't think it'd be that easy. But we can still talk about it. All right, sure. Hi. Welcome to Tabletop Tabletalk, where one of the things I try to emphasize the most is that if you want to be a GM, you can, and you can do it well. We are in a time, especially now, when we have opportunities to tell stories, and there are plenty of stories that can be told. Exciting ones, sappy ones, calm ones, quiet ones, full of action, full of adventure, full of romance, full of smiles, or just full of happiness. Even plenty of drama if that's what you want to do. Now is the time to tell some stories. I'm Gabe. You might know me as GabeJamesGames on Twitch, Twitter, and pretty much anywhere else. I am a voice actor, cosplayer, game designer, uh, and I'm a DM. I love running games and I just like to tell stories, and that's part of why I wanted to do this show. Today's episode, we're talking about GM Burnout, which, ironically, I am also very tired today, but I still wanted to talk and I still wanted to sit and chat with all of you. And today's show, like the other few, is probably still going to be a little bit different. Um, so if you've run games, or even if you haven't run games, even if you've just been a part of games as a member of the party or anything, I'm sure you've experienced some sort of burnout. And like with most things, I feel like it's good if we actually talk about what that word means. So I'm going to give you more of a textbook definition, and then we're going to talk more. Burnout is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. And some of this definition might not be applicable to what we're saying, but it can relate, and we'll come back to it. It occurs when you feel overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet constant demands. As the stress continues, you begin to lose the interest and motivation that led you to take on a certain role in the first place. Burnout reduces productivity and saps your energy, leaving you feeling increasingly hopeless, helpless, cynical, and sometimes resentful. Eventually, you may feel like you have nothing more to give. The negative effects of burnout spill over into every area of life, including your home, work, and social life. Burnout can even cause long-term changes to your body that make you vulnerable to illness like colds and flu. Because of its many consequences, it's important to deal with burnout as soon as possible. So there's a lot of intensity that comes with burnout. And since we're specifically talking about burnout when it comes to games, a lot of that still applies. Burnout reduces productivity and saps your energy. There are plenty of times when I've been trying to figure out what to do for a campaign, what to do for my party, what to do for my players, and I just don't know. I have no concept of what I want to do for them next. I have no idea what the story should be doing. I have no idea where the story should be going, and I might have had a whole string of ideas last week. But this week, before the session, or even after the session, I'm just exhausted. And there's dozens of ways we work to try to resolve burnout. And there's no single answer that's right, like with most things. But there are a bunch of options that we can try. And one of them, or a few of them, might work. Yeah, I can I could literally name 3 situations when I've been burnt out from games that I've been running or games that I've been trying to tell stories for. And it's exhausting. And then at least I feel like I wasn't doing enough, or I wasn't dedicated enough, or I wasn't emotionally invested enough. And usually it's the opposite. I was doing too much. I was diving too deep in. I was pushing myself farther than I should have. And then it ended up weighing on me emotionally and then physically a little bit too. Because we're excited and we're invested and we want to tell these stories and we want to do these things and we want to see it all come together and we want to see it all happen. And then we do a little bit too much. So 2 things today. We'll talk about how to try and prevent it. Excuse me. And it doesn't always work when we try to prevent it, but we can try. And then the second thing is what to do after it happens. Because we can try to prevent burnout before we get to that point, but after we hit that point, how do we recover? And when you can at least come up with ideas for both of those, I hope that you'll be a little bit better off, especially if burnout is something that you're suffering from right now. I've been able to avoid it in a lot of my GMing, and sometimes it goes into my work, or then sometimes I don't experience it in my work, or I experience it when I'm running games. It's a balancing act. And balancing acts are something that I feel like GMs in general also experience a lot. So, you're feeling GM burnout. What do you think is getting to you? Is it just that the players you have aren't invested and aren't doing as much as you would like the story to do? Are you just frustrated? What are you frustrated about? Are you frustrated about the system? Are you frustrated about the game that you've been running? Are you frustrated about where the story is going? Are you frustrated about where the story isn't going? Are you just tired? Are you putting all this time and effort into these things and you're so passionate and you love it, but you're also exhausted at the end of the day? You spend 2 hours making notes about these different characters, building this world, making this world come to life. And then after it's done, you don't feel the excitement you thought you would. You expected to be pumped up, ready, blown away by everything you've done, and instead, you're just tired. But you don't have time to rest because you've got so much more to do. You've got so much more to prep. You've got so much more to get ready for this thing that you're doing. Are you burnt out because things in your life are weighing on you? It might not even be that the game you're running is really requiring a whole bunch of the attention and effort that you need. It could be that just life in general is overwhelming. Considering the fact that so many places are still required to be stuck inside. If you're burnt out because of that and it weighs into you running the game, that makes sense. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you still trying to have that sense of normalcy and excitement. And if the stuff outside is affecting you here, it's okay. It's not your fault. It could be you're doing a home game. It could be you're doing a stream game. And stream games can sometimes be even harder because home games, I feel like you have less regulations you feel like you need to follow. You have a safer area to do it without worry of outside interference or judgment, and you don't have to put on an appearance for that stuff. If you have to take a break and come back, it's a whole lot easier, I feel like, for a home game because people don't have that expectation of seeing you. I've had burnout from streams. And it's an exercise. And sometimes you just need time away. Even though this isn't a stream where I'm GMing. This is a stream where I'm leading a conversation. And I promise you, there are going to be days when it comes to be Friday or it's like Thursday night and I just make a post saying that I apologize, there's not going to be a tabletop talk tomorrow. I just need a break. Because we need breaks. We need time to not be on. And running games can be so much fun. But it also means that you have to be on while you're running games. You're making the story come together. You're bringing the characters to life. You're getting the encounters together. You're organizing what the world looks like, what this area looks like, how the game is going to react. And when you're doing that every week, every 2 weeks, for a month, for months, for maybe even a year for some of the people with long campaigns, burnout is not a foreign thing. It's like when people talk about when you're working in something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I largely agree with that, because literally part of my work is talking to people about fantasy games. It's playing in streams. That's a beautiful thing to me, and I adore and appreciate it, and I try not to take that for granted. But I also still know that I'm still working, and I can enjoy what I'm doing. I can enjoy the stories I'm telling. I can enjoy the work I'm doing, but it can also take its toll. And when you're running a game and you have all of these pieces that you're trying to keep together, because I know very well how frustrating it is when you have a group that is intensely intrigued and they care about what you're doing and the story you're telling. And it's really hard every week to have that same energy and bring it back. And when you're doing it straight for 2-3 months with not really a break, and you're trying to hold on to that, it might not feel the same. So someone said it in the comments right there, and I feel it. There was a situation where I ran a game for months and months, and it was fun. And then it just became less fun because there was a maintenance that was always there, or it was effort that I wanted to put forth, and sometimes I didn't have the energy to. And it got to the point where I just didn't have the mental emotion, the capacity, the feeling to do it. And I felt terrible. And my party wasn't upset. They actually understood. They were like, take a break, take some time. You've been working really hard. But I feel like something that doesn't get mentioned a lot is how emotionally frustrating GM burnout can be too. Because when I encounter it, when I feel it, I don't want to be burned out. And I know that's obvious, or it should be, right? But when you're a party member and you have a GM who's experiencing burnout, one of the best things that can be done is just being supportive. Being supportive and trying to help and enthusing them to take breaks, or offering to switch to a new system or doing something else. Yeah, because you feel like you're letting a group down. You feel like you're not giving them everything that they deserve and giving them the option to tell the stories you want to tell. And it sucks. It sucks so much. And even if they don't say that to you, you still feel it. So Andy Game said, yeah, me and my friends have 6 ongoing campaigns. We switch off on GM duties, 2 of which are mine, but of which are the most popular. I know the feeling of burnout. It's a lot, yeah. There's the view of you love that people are excited for the stories you have, for the things you have to tell, for the things you have to share. And in my opinion, one of the often unspoken aspects of GM burnout is pressure. There can be a lot of pressure that comes into it when you feel like you have to maintain something. And that's part of why communication is important. It's hard. And the suggestion for dealing with GM burnout, there's a lot of suggestions. And that's why I said early on, I don't feel like with most things, there's not a single fix. It's not going to be you do this one thing and you'll feel automatically better. Because when you're burnt out, usually it's a recovery process. It's not popping more fuel into the gas tank and then you're raring to go. Usually it's a gradual thing as you're like, okay, I'm ready to do this again. If you're someone that can go from burnt out to ready to run, that's fantastic, and I am impressed. Not everyone is the case, but I am glad you have that capability. You have that internal strength to work through it like that. So some suggestions are taking time off. Taking time off to take a break, not have to run the game, not have to think about what's happening in the world, not have to figure out what characters are doing in the world, not having to figure out what the party is going to do next, not having to figure out how to revive this party member, not having to figure out what plot hooks that should exist for the party and the characters and everything that's happening in the world. Can you? Absolutely. If it's something you want to do and it's something you're like, actually, I want to think about what's happening here. Or like, wow, that inspires me. Actually, that'd be great if this character was this character's mom. It's the difference between getting the inspiration and you can do something versus having to do something and needing to think of what happens next. You have the option versus being required to. If in that time you take the break, you come up a dozen outstanding and fantastic ideas, then you're going to be in good shape. And you still, with that being the case, should take the rest of that time to rest and relax. Plan out breaks when you're running campaigns. Plan out times when you've played for a straight month. You've played for 2 straight months. And it's a lot. And right now you still feel like you're okay, but if you keep going at the same pace, it's going to wear you out. Talk to your party and say, hey, I'd like to us get to this point, and then after this point, let's take a break for a little bit. Like it could be 1 session, it could be a month. Talk about what you're all comfortable with. Talk about the timeline that you want to have. Get to a point that feels like a good point to maybe slide away from the story. And then take that time. Because if you feel better, you can always take the opportunity to come back in sooner. But you need to take that time so you can gauge when you feel comfortable coming back after a burnout. So someone else said, the weirdest thing I found out was that because I put a campaign on hiatus, I found that facilitating a one-shot of something like Alice Was Missing was invigorating. Yes. Because then you're changing how much your brain has to process for this world. You're giving your brain a chance to work in something else, in a different medium for a second. Because with GM Burnout, it might not even just be that just running a game, telling stories is causing you to burn out. It could be working in this world, working in this system. It might have become monotonous. And because it became monotonous, you don't have the same energy levels going into it. Because you don't have the same energy levels going into it, you might be drained faster. Things that you used to be able to do for hours and hours might be exhausting for you after 20 minutes. You might need to reinvigorate that excitement for it by taking a break. It's like having a palate cleanser. And if you don't have that, it might become boring. And you don't want that to become boring, because when you're running games, you're a player in this game. You're telling stories, and you should be having fun too. I'll say it again. You should be having fun too. If you are a GM, if you are a DM, if you are a narrator or a storyteller, you should be having fun too. It's our world. Not theirs, not yours. It's our world that we're telling stories in together. And if we're not all having fun, we're all going to probably burn out from the world. And then if everybody burns out, if the majority burns out, you might not come back to that world ever again. And there are worse things. But if you decide to step away from a world, from a game, from an experience, I feel like the hope is that you do it because you all chose to. Not because you all lost the excitement, will, and drive too. So the one who mentioned the 6 campaigns before, Andy Game, said the way I handle my situation is focus on only one of those 2 campaigns at a time. Once I finish the session for the one, I start working on the other campaign. And I can actually see how that works, because then you get to change the direction your brain is working. It's not that you're solely focusing on the one the whole time, and then you get to take like a fresh look at the other one and switching back and forth. Variety helps with burnout for me a lot. I love running insert this game name here. If I only run insert this game name here, I might get like bored of it. I might want to do the mechanics in this. I might want to use mechanics in this. And you can pull mechanics from other things, but that's also work. And sometimes doing too much work will lead you to burnout. This is one of those moments where it's like there are dozens of routes that can lead you to feeling like you're burnt out when it comes to running and telling stories. Yes. Is it fair? No. But human bodies are both incredibly strong, incredibly resilient, and extremely powerful, while also very easily switching to fragile and very much needing of rest, even when we don't want to do it. And that includes physical rest or just mental rest. And I've been reading a couple articles of different people's opinions on how to handle burnout. And there's been a lot of value in the ones I've reading. Someone mentioned ways to avoid burnout is to avoid doing all the prep that you do. I partially agree too. They said write your standard to-do list for everything you need to get done in order to be ready for the session. So just planning everything out, or at least planning out your general to-do list. Have an idea of what involves by dealing with your anxious thoughts, which of those things can go. So as you're making your prep for the game, figure out which things are required and which things are optional. It's like downsizing everything you have to do. There might be a circumstance where you plan out what the next session is going to be, and you're talking about, it's going to be a combat encounter, and then you plan out the combat encounter, and then you plan out what they're going to do when they get back to the shop or the town, or what other areas they might go to around you. That's a lot. It's a lot to think about. It's a lot to consider. And some days I will prep. I'll do prep for a week because I'm excited and driven and I want to figure out everything they're going to do. Some days I do prep for 2 hours because I have 2 hours of motivation and I know loosely what I want to happen, but I don't know what's going to happen beyond that. So downsizing what you do might be good, but it also might be very difficult, especially if you rely on prep, which is why I said I partially agreed with a lot of these things, because there's a lot of value in that, especially if you're someone who does do a continuous amount of prep. I think if you're someone who does a lot of prep, that's probably one of the best suggestions. Plan out your list and then select the things that you feel like are required, or specifically that you want. If you're not someone that does a whole bunch of prep, something that might help you, either doing it yourself or seeking ones that other people have made, is charts. I love a good chart. That's one of the nerdiest things I've said in the last 24 hours. I said 24 hours because I was going to say a week, but it's probably not. But I love charts because they add randomization to things. It's like the improv stuff that I've talked about in previous videos. And that stuff helps my burnout because then I don't have to think as much of what's happening. I can let these charts, these tools that I have, help decide these things for me. If there's less that I have to process, there's less that I have to think about constantly, it makes it a little easier for me to work through. If they hear a rustling sound and then they peek around the corner to see an NPC, if I have a chart to help me determine who that NPC is, that might be amazing. Because then it's like, okay, it is an elven figure with a battle axe on their back, and they actually seem to have, they have bat-like wings. And just all little notions and descriptions from a chart. That's awesome. Because then the party is going to start delving into this. They're going to start asking questions. They're going to start coming up with ideas. And I, as the GM, can play off of those ideas. I can take the things that they've considered and start adapting that. It's really interesting. Yeah. Honestly, being a GM and experiencing burnout is part of why I'm a creator. It was a circumstance where the burnout sucked. But as I was trying to figure out ways to come back from it and recover from it, it drove me to do a lot more. I wanted to keep making stories. Creating stories was hard. But I loved doing it. And I could actually manage doing that. The thing that I struggled with was always having the energy to tell those stories myself. So I started making content. I had ideas for creatures and adventures that I didn't feel like I had the energy to tell everything about them. I didn't have the energy to run through those stories myself. But I did want to talk about them. I wanted to work on them. I wanted to create them. And it led me to start making some of the designs I have. I've made monsters for D&D, Pathfinder, GURPS, Zweihander. I've just come up with different creatures ideas, archetypes, classes, adventure ideas. I came up with a weather system that I've been working on. Just because I wanted to come up with these things. But I don't always have the same energy to tell the stories with these things. It's almost the opposite of when someone is using the tools inside of their games. Like if you love charts and graphs and then you can find something that someone made to use those, it might make your life easier. It's almost a symbiosis of me not having the energy to tell stories but wanting to create, and another GM not having the energy to create but wanting to tell the stories. And we might both be heading towards burnout if we were just doing both at the same time. And me not reaching burnout was just from me not being the one to tell those. Them not reaching burnout was just not being the one to create the stuff. It's like the collaboration helped me do a little bit better. Yeah. And now I literally continue to make content for stuff. And as I've made more content, as I've done it more at my own leisure, as I've done it in a medium that I'm more comfortable with, I'm getting reinvigorated to tell those stories again. I've GM'd one-shots, I think 4 times in the last 2 months, maybe 3 months. And doing them has made me realize how much I enjoyed running those games and running and telling the stories and being the narrator and being the GM and being the DM. I really am seeing how much I enjoy it. And it's nice having that feeling come back, because I didn't even realize that I was still a little bit in burnout. I loved being a player, and I loved being a member of a party, and after doing it continuously, I realized I might want to go back to being a storyteller too. I might want to go back to being the narrator. Might want to go back to being the guide. Might want to go back to being the GM. And I feel like that's actually another great example. If you're experiencing GM burnout, one of the best solutions might be just to not be the GM for a little bit. Not even just taking a break from everything that you're doing, not even taking a break from your group of friends that you play with. It could literally just be that you just have to not be the GM. At least for a little bit. The break doesn't mean you have to stop playing. The break could mean that you're just not the person who's running the story right now. So you take that time to be a member of the party, to be a part of this world. And in doing so, you get yourself the party perspective, the player's perspective. And you get to be a party member for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then the other person, the person who's been GMing now, is actually like, oh, you know what? I'm actually getting a little burnt out. I'm a little tired. I only had that much to tell with the story. Unless anyone else wants to go back to it, I think I'm actually going to take a step back and just stop there. Those 3 weeks, though, might have been exactly what you needed. They might have been exactly what you sought out as a break. Because you got to see the world from a whole different perspective then. You got to see the world not from having to view everything that's happening around it, to now you saw a connected but small area of a world. It could have been the same one you've been playing in. It could have been a different one. But you got a whole different perspective. And that might have been both inspiration and revitalization. Burnout is very real. And let me see. So we're gonna tie this back into some of the Roll20 stuff, because even if you have a group that you play with all the time, and none of them feel up to GMing a game, there are other solutions. So, have you ever heard of, ironically, on a talk show about being a better GM, have you ever heard of GM-less games? So, some of the people in this chat will swear by them, and I like them a lot. One of the best things to do when you need to take a break could be, yep, there's Jess, could be GM-less games. There are so many, especially on Roll20. And I have, okay, let's see. Okay, I have a bunch of suggestions. Because if you need a break from GMing, if you need a break from telling stories, there are a bunch of games that are designed so not one person has to sit in a GM seat. I don't know why that was such a hard word, but it was. So yes, if you're looking for GM-less games, especially on Roll20, there's For the Queen, The King is Dead, One Particular Harbor, Alice is Missing, Fall of Magic, Dialect, even Fiasco. And I have heard of Ironsworn. And I'm positive that a majority of these are right on Roll20. I've never played Ironsworn, but it looks like you can actually download the rules for free, which is interesting. I'm gonna come back to this. I love that. If you're the GM, take a break. Seriously. If it's too much, take a break. Take a well-earned break from having to do so much and having to plan so much, and let your brain, let your mind, let your body just not have to be on for a minute. If you're watching on YouTube later, I'll try to put a list of some of these suggestions in the description. And for those of you on Twitch right now, even just talking about some of these games, the names, I can see how excited so many of you are. I mean, don't tempt me. I will look it up. Today is it's a funny topic to talk about, because even today I'm like, I feel good, but I'm also tired. And it's not even bad. It's just like I've been working and keeping up, And oh, there's an Ironsworn character sheet on Roll20. Ignore me. Don't look at me. um yeah, it's a lot. I've never I've never felt like there was any one solution for me for handling it. There have been times when I stopped being GM for a group and I just didn't go back to GMing. I still played with that group for like another couple months and I just didn't run the game. And I was okay with that. GM burnout could come from, gosh. I mentioned a bunch of places it can come from. It could also even come from the group. And this isn't saying the group is a bad group to play with. It could be just playing with that group and running the story for them is what overwhelms you. It could be there's a level that you feel like you have to meet when you play with that group. And it's just too much. Let's see. I'm not okay. So, you all did this to me. Now I'm dedicated. What is happening? Ironsworn. Ah, it's open. Okay. We might be doing this. We might be doing this today. I'm so easily distracted. I think there was a question though. Let me know what the question was as I'm getting this Ironsworn stuff together, so that this content is not just everyone sitting looking at Gabe get very involved with this fantasy GM-less system. I honestly, I feel like this is one of the best examples of how I personally deal with GM burnout. Like if I'm burnt out from something, whether it's GMing or working or anything like that, getting and talking and being as like forward and open about that stuff as I can, having that discussion, and then just relaxing. If that's not a perfect like comparison and actual like grasp of it, I don't know what is. So let's see. Gosh, all right, this is happening. This is actually happening. Let's let's take a look at Ironsworn. All right. I have it looks really cool. Like the more and more I look at it. Oh, thank you. What do you do if a simple one shot to relax becomes something players want to continue as an adventure or campaign? That's a great question. I have had that actually happen twice. One thing that two things that I do actually. One, that is a long conversation, because if that's something they want to do, I would legitimately say give me time to think about it. And I'm going to elaborate. I'd say give me time to think about it, because if you can figure out where your burnout comes from, it might be something that you're okay with. If your burnout comes from running the game and telling the stories and all of the build and world building around it, I'd really say tell them you'll think about it. Or if you don't want to do it, actively say you just don't feel up to it. Because, as I've said, your emotions, your feelings, and your comfort is just as important as anyone else's at the table. If you discover that your burnout was coming from the particular game or world or story that you were telling before, and that this new one you've been running, this one shot that you've been involved with, these characters that you met now, is something that you don't even feel that same burnout with, is something you just only feel excitement with, I would still say ask for some time to think about it. Just so that you know those feelings of excitement and that joy and that wonder and that drive isn't something that's just like a pumped up adrenaline feeling. Isn't something that's just really in the moment. It's something that you're like, yes, this is what I want to do. Actually, I want to keep telling the story. I want to keep doing this. I like where this is going. Because that's a whole different circumstance. It's a whole different feeling. So it's that conversation. Cybernetic Lich said, I've also found that reading other RPGs and making little reference Google Docs for myself have been my new GM Burnout fix. That's awesome. That makes sense. Because then you get to see how other things have done it, how other ways it's been approached. That's interesting. That's smart. You're smart. I respect that. Let me see. All right. So we're going to switch this over here because all right. So here is the character sheet for Ironsworn. Let's just take a look, because then we get a look at some of the Roll20 stuff, as well as we can look at something that might actually help with GM Burnout. You know what? Okay, no. We're going to go into that first, because that's a really good question. What are some of the warning signs of impending burnout? I feel like this also means that one of the next shows we're doing is going to be talking about GM-less games. And I actually think I know someone who would be a great person to talk about with that. So I'll probably reach out to them and we'll see what happens. Because then it's a lot easier to talk as well if I'm talking not just to you this way, but talking to someone through like a voice connection. But some of the impending warning signs. You dread sitting down to run this game and tell the story. When you think about what's going to come next, you're not excited. When you figure out what you have to tell for this story, it feels a lot more like work than it does fun. If after every session or every other session, you feel an actual exhaustion, there might be ways that you need to work around it just so that you're okay. Because you should be okay. If you feel like you're not getting time to enjoy yourself during this game, if you feel like you're not getting time that, if you don't feel like you're a player in this circumstance, and you feel like you're just doing for others the whole time, the entire time, you're probably going to get burned out. Because then you're just working. You're not enjoying it. You're not doing this for fun. If you ask yourself, Am I having fun doing all of this? And the answer isn't a resounding yes. You might be leaning towards some GM burnout, because if that's going to be a consistent feeling over and over and over again, each week, every other 2 weeks, and it just hits you every time, it's not going to go away unless we do something to change it. Otherwise, it's going to keep building on and piling on and piling on. And I can't imagine that any of us would want that. So, all right, let's take a look at this game, Ironsworn. This is interesting. Okay. I have no idea how this works. But right off the bat, it says, creating an Ironsworn character. How did you all convince me to do this? So, okay, this is perfect. Literally earlier today, starting the stream, I had said I was feeling a little drained and a little burnt out myself in general. But looking at this, I'm actually very excited. I know nothing about it. Name. You have a name. Perhaps others will honor it someday in stories and songs. Dan Handsome. Don't judge me. I wonder how character roles work. Oh, wow. And then it just... Interesting. Roll with action score 7, challenge dice 9, 5, weak hit. Wow, this really just does everything for you. Okay. So there's a lot to this game just from looking at it. So it has, game has 3 modes of play: solo, GM-less, and conventional. Okay, it's a powered by the apocalypse type of game. That's interesting. So let's read a little bit about playing Ironsworn, because there is a playing Ironsworn thing in the document. And I'm going to look into what it actually says and read it out to you. So it says, I have too many windows. Good Lord, why am I like this? Yes, 3 modes of play. Guided. 1 or more of the players take the role of their characters, the protagonists of the story. Well, a GM, so this is a game that you can have a GM, but it doesn't require one because there's 3 modes, which I like. Well, a game master moderates the session. The GM helps bring the world to life, portrays the people and creatures you encounter, and makes decisions about the outcome of your actions. Cool. Okay, so that is one mode that does use a GM, but the other 2 don't. And that is what relates to us and our break sense. It's warm, and I like air conditioning. Okay. So, so then there's cooperative or co-op. You and 1 or more friends play together to overcome challenges and complete quests. A GM is not required. The Ironsworn game system will help you explore the dramatic stories of your characters and their fateful vows. That's neat. And then solo. As with cooperative play, no GM is necessary. You portray a lone heroic character in a dangerous world. Good luck. Ironsworn is primarily intended for solo and small group play. 1 to 4 players plus a GM is ideal. The characters portrayed by other players are referred in these worlds as your allies. So right now, thinking about all the other role-playing games that I've played and telling stories, This is not even a bit. This is just Gabe talking in a very open and sincere way. I was feeling a little burnt out because there's a lot of stuff and I'm very excited about a lot of stuff, but there's so much going on in the world that I'm a little overwhelmed and I'm managing, and it's manageable, but it doesn't make burnout any less real. And burnout from other things has kind of led to me having some GM burnout. And I want to run stories and tell these things, but I don't have the energy and the same motivation to do it. And it's frustrating because, like we said, I'm not even running games for anybody. But even with that, I feel like I'm letting people down by not running games and not doing as much. It's a cycle and a frustrating one. But looking at this and seeing that this is a game that could technically I could run and play by myself, or I can run and play with one other person or other people, and then none of us has to be the GM, I'm really excited. Because then all of the responsibility isn't just on me. It's outlined to be equal responsibility. Something about that just makes me smile. And it's refreshing. And I don't know if that's that refreshment is going to be the thing that completely brings me out of my burnout, but it does help. So actually, this PDF is a free PDF that you can download. So let's look at it together. And potentially get through some of our burnout together, talking about this interesting, exciting, nerdy looking game. And I say nerdy because I feel like anything that I like is nerdy. I'm convinced if I like it, it's nerdy. Because I am. And this is a game that does have a character sheet on Roll20, which is probably where I'm going to be going to play this game after this stream is over. For hours. So if you don't hear from me for hours, I'm probably fine. But let's see. Okay, so it says, if you're playing solo... So actually, you know what? If you have a Roll20 account right now and you want to do something to just sit and avoid burnout, and you just want to do something fun, this is me opening up an opportunity. I'm going to open it up on Roll20 and I'm going to open up the character sheet, and I don't entirely know how this game goes, but this... like someone who literally just said looking at other rules and figuring out how they work is a way that they avoid burnout. This is exciting to me. So if for the next hour, I think we might delve into Ironsworn. I'm actually going to answer this question. No nap, only Ironsworn. Only Ironsworn. I'm going to answer this question. Is there anything a player can do to help their GM identify or improve the onset of burnout? So some people do like a stars and wishes thing at the end of the game where they like have people talk about what they enjoyed, people talk about what they wanted to do more of, what they liked, and what they would like to do. And it's like an after session check-in thing. I would make for yourself a little like after session checklist that you don't even have to talk about with the party if you're not comfortable. And I feel like actually leaving it to yourself would be better for you because then you don't have to hide anything. It's not that you have to hide things, but sometimes opening up is a terrifying thing, and I understand that very well. But like an after session checklist for yourself. And literally like a question that you answer for yourself to yourself. Did you have fun? Or like, if you don't want to do just a yes or no, on a scale of 1 to 5, how much fun was that session? And you don't even have to think of it much beyond that point. I would say, like, every now and then, you might have like a list. If you actually even make it a chart, if you make it like a box of, I'll make you a quick example. What am I doing? I have technology for this. So, if, for example, this is my notepad, right? And I decide I'm going to make a little chart for myself. I feel like I can just draw lines. Yes, I can. No, don't stop it. Ignore that. Anyways, so let's say that this is a chart that I use to keep track of fun, right? And this is just for me. This is for session 1. This is 2. This is 3. This is 4. This is 5. This is 6. This is 7. So literally, I just have a little checklist for myself. Thank you. I just have a little checklist for myself of keeping track of how much fun I have when I'm running the sessions. And it's from 1 to 5. So let's say session 1. Session 1 was, did not want that big. Session 1 was a 4. That's pretty good. Session 2, that's a 3. Session 3, that's a 5. Session 4, that's a 5. But then session 5, that's a 1. Session 6, that's a 2. Session 7, that's a 1. And having like 3s, having 5s, having 2s, it's not bad. It could literally just be that there was a lot of narrative or not a lot got done or whatever was happening. But if you see a chain of a few sessions that are continuously low, for whatever rating system you do, for however you want to sort it, that might give you a good gauge that burnout is coming. Because you don't have to share how exciting or how much fun sessions were for you in like a harsh or blunt term unless you want to. If you want to and you can, that communication might actually be a world of a difference that you needed. Because communication makes a huge difference when people know something they can help. But if you don't feel up to having that conversation, that rating system for yourself, so you can gauge it, so you can tell and like actively be honest when you're not having fun, it might make a world of a difference. I'm sometimes terrified to tell the players when I didn't have a good time because I don't want to harsh on their fun. But my fun is important too. I should be able to enjoy myself too. If something is burning me out, if something is just requiring more of me than I'm able to keep up with, then knowing that is important. And when I realized I didn't have fun the last 3 sessions, then I can think about why. So my last 3 sessions were a 1, a 2, and a 1. Why was that? Well, combat's been really heavy. And there's a lot of numbers that go into it. And then all the puzzles. It's just a lot. But on session 3 and 4, it was all narrative and exploration, and it was spontaneous stuff. And then if I try to do more of that in session 8, session 9, and they're back up to a 5 and a 4, a couple things happened. I might have a better viewpoint of the stuff that I like doing. I have a viewpoint on how maybe I need to approach the combat and the puzzles a little bit differently. I can talk to the party about the stuff that I enjoy doing the most, and then figure out ways that we can enjoy it together. Because if I don't take those notes, if I don't become aware of that stuff, if I just keep trying to plow forward and through into dealing with all of that, I'm going to just keep putting myself in burnout and not noting any of the warning signs that were there. Or even if they were there, that I just didn't look for. But if I had looked for them, it would have made a world of a difference. There's often signs and ways things connect, and we just have to see them. But to see them, sometimes we have to look. And I know that sounds a little ridiculous, but if you get a chance, just try it. Sometimes there's things that we enjoy doing in our games more than we thought, but we just subconsciously go back to them. It's why people sometimes have a favorite class or archetype that they play in games. It's why people sometimes play a specific type of character, because they just like the way that feels and that flows and that progresses. It's okay to have the preferences like that. And now it's just recognizing them and knowing them, and then acknowledging them and figuring out ways to harness them properly, so we don't come across burnout by putting ourselves outside of things and brute forcing it to try to make it work. Because it might work, but it might only work because you're making it work, not because that's what you want to do or enjoy doing. And the game is for you too. Your fun, your experience, your excitement are all just as important. So we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to go get some water, stand up, stretch, walk around. And when we get back, because I have been convinced, open up Roll20. Go to... Actually... So open up Roll20. I'll even show you. My computer is saying Gabe. All right. Literally, go to Roll20. Start a new game. You can call it whatever you want. Ba-da-ba-da-ba. Literally call it anything you want to. I called mine as the blah blah blah. Then optional character sheet. Click that. Literally, if you look up Ironsworn, it will come up right there. There's also Iron Crunch. I don't know what that is. Click Ironsworn. And then just, I'm ready, create your game. Because when we get back, we are going to sit and try to avoid some GM burnout and maybe just make an Ironsworn character and figure out what happens and play a little bit together. And if we like that, maybe we'll have a tabletop day where it's tabletop Ironsworn. Because this is a great way that we could literally play together separately and then figure out how the hell our stories are going. I haven't really done anything like that, but I think it'd be fun. So go take a break, stand up, walk around, stretch, and hydrate. When we get back, let's I guess we'll become Ironsworn. welcome back. I guess to me, I don't know. I hope that you stretched. I hope that you got water. I hope that you walked around a little bit, that you are comfortable, and let's look into some Ironsworn. This is interesting. Flying ogres. I am all for that. Steampunk ogres, you heard it here first. I appreciate all of you so much. Oh my gosh. No. Phone. Why are you sending weird things? Okay. Alright, so let's look at Ironsworn. So this there is the character sheet that you can find for free on Roll20, and then I am just peeking through the book that is a free download. So what you need, it's telling you the different dice as well as the character sheet. But the beautiful thing is we have all of that here. Also, my name is Dan Handsome. I accept no questions. Dan Handsome is bold and strong and beautiful. Answer yes. Okay, so let's see. Mechanics and the fiction, the setting. 2 generations, your people were driven to the Ironlands from their former homes in the old world. The weather here is harsh. Winters are brutal. The rugged terrain makes travel and trade difficult and dangerous. I literally stretched and got water. And all of like the feelings of burnout and stuff that I've been feeling for the past week, they're not gone, but I feel them significantly lessened from my excitement for this game and actually taking care of my body. Oh, my green screen was also... That's weird. Don't like that. Stop it. Okay. So... Oh, and you can adapt the rules to different genres. See page 237 for hacking Ironsworn. That's dope as hell. Iron vows. All right, let's just get into the character sheet. Your vows, page 35, are your sacred oaths to complete perilous quests. And again, if you have just opened this up in Roll20, then we can literally follow along and create this character stuff together. You have 5 stats, page 33, which represent the core aspects of your character. These are often added as a bonus when you take an action. As you fulfill your vows, you can earn experience. You can spend experience to gain new assets. This is interesting already. As you take an action, you build or lose momentum, page 11. And momentum, okay, so we have the stats, which are up here, the top 5. We have the vows that we make. And then we have the momentum tracker at the bottom. Got it, okay. Oh, and there's experience right there, and then we can show how much we've spent. That's a nice function. I like that. Oh, and there's the different sheets and Okay. I'm learning. This is interesting. Moves are self-contained systems to resolve a specific action, scene, or question. There's a move for most common situations you encounter in Ironsworn. They have specific triggers phrased as when you blank, when your character does that thing. Okay. Moves are organized by activities, adventure moves, relationship moves, combat moves. Oh, okay. And if we go to the moves tab, there's literally different moves for the stuff outlined right here in the character sheet. There's adventure moves, there's relationship moves, there's suffer moves, there's quest moves. This is interesting. And then the icons are showing what ones require a roll. Hold on. This is neat. Oh, Oh, there's previews. Sorry, this is all very new to me. So I should not apologize. So on the Roll20 character sheet, if you click the thing, it will tell you like details of the stuff to preview the move. When you search an area, ask questions, conduct an investigation, or follow a track, roll with wits. If you act within a community or ask questions of a person with whom you share a bond, add 1. On a strong hit, you discover something. On a weak hit, on a miss. And then I assume if I just click that, and then it's asking what stat am I using, the modifiers. That's interesting. This is a really nice character sheet. I like that they had the stuff outlined there to make life significantly easier. Okay. Yep, okay. So this is the stuff that we saw on the character sheet. This is the move's name. This is the move's trigger. When you do this thing or encounter. That's amazing. Okay. Yep, and it tells you how it happens on a... and it's telling me the results. Oh, yes, okay, because previously this thing was a weak hit, and it tells me that it's a miss there. Oh, okay, so Dan Handsome, right there. It says that one was a miss. So let's look at face danger. On a miss, you fail, or your progress is undermined by a dramatic and costly turn of events. Pay the price. Oh, and then it tells me the fate moves pay the price. Oh no. When you suffer the outcome of a move, choose one. Make the most obvious negative outcome happen. Envision 2 negative outcomes, rate 1 is likely. Ask the oracle using the yes or no table. On a yes, make that outcome happen. Otherwise, make it a roll. Roll on the table below if you have difficulty interpreting the result. So let's roll oracle. A friend, companion, or ally is put in harm's way. Or you if you're alone. No. This is interesting. And remember, okay. Anyways, earlier I talked about how charts and stuff were so helpful. This game is legitimately giving you a GM-less experience with the different charts. But this also is a circumstance where if you loved this game so much and you enjoyed playing it and you wanted to play it with other people, you could play with other people in a GM-less circumstance. Hi, B. You could play with other people in a GM-less circumstance, and this game also has function for GM functionality. So we're taking a look at Ironsworn because we were talking about GM Burnout, and GM Burnout is really frustrating for a lot of reasons, because you feel like you're not doing enough, you feel like you're not giving enough, you want to enjoy what you're doing, but you can't. For dozens of possible reasons. And one of the things that you might need to do is take a break, look at a different system, try something else. And so one of my suggestions was talking about GM-less games. And GM-less games are interesting because they might give you a new perspective for stuff that you want to add to your own games. And one of the games that was mentioned was called Ironsworn. And Ironsworn, you can download the PDF for free online, and there is a character sheet up on Roll20. So I decided, let's take a look at it. The chart that I have right here is basically outlining, not Ironsworn, but it was talking about ways to figure out if you're starting to lean towards burnout. If the last couple sections, session 5, 6, and 7, weren't fun, something's wrong. And how do you resolve that? But I was saying, you know what, maybe someone suggested something that helps their burnout is looking at other systems, seeing how other systems work. And then when someone had mentioned Ironsworn, and then I saw that there was a Roll20 character sheet, I'm like, you know what, let's look at it. And just from the game, it looks fun. It plays interesting. It's the narrative storytelling. So when you make an action, there is the challenge dice, the action dice, and it looks like it adds up. Yes, okay. Oh, wait a second. Add your relevant stat to the action dice. This move will tell you which stat to add or may give you a choice. Okay. So it's essentially saying that you roll the challenge dice, and the challenge dice are what you have to beat. And you use your action dice to try to beat that with the stat that you have. So in this circumstance, we saw that the action score was a 7, and I needed something greater than a 5, because that was the lowest on the challenge dice. I didn't get that with the 2 that I rolled, and I needed a 7 or a 5. And it looks like that there's the miss, the weak hit, and the strong hit. A strong hit is if you beat both your challenge dice. A weak hit is beating one challenge dice, and a miss is beating neither. This is interesting. This is really exciting. Oh, it literally would have told me that if I had gone to the next page. But, oh gosh, the game designer in me is basically chomping at the bit. This literally combination of the character sheet on Roll20 and just this explanation feels like it's a good sense of design, because I was able to piece that stuff together without even having seen that. And there's the different things, the different sections inside of each of them. Dan Handsome was looking at face the danger stuff, and it tells us what happens on a strong hit, what happens on a weak hit, what happens on a miss. So there's a lot of detail that's going to go even more into this. But right now, off the top of the bat, we could literally play this game. I could literally just play this game. Now, if you are playing as the GM, you can focus on guiding the game and responding to your players' questions and actions. Since the NPCs don't make moves, you won't need to make action rolls. However, you might want to have a pair of D10s available for Oracle rolls. I want to play this game. What has happened? Oh, they got me. Soon. What is happening? Okay, so momentum, because it tells us if we succeed things how momentum happens, right? Momentum is a special mechanic which is central to playing Ironsworn. Your momentum values range from a -6 to a 10 and represent how you are faring in your quests. More results may tell you how to increase or decrease your momentum. The momentum track is on the left side of your character sheet. You can use a paperclip or a token to mark the current value. When you have a positive momentum, things are going your way. You have the advantage, you're in control, your path is clear. You're properly positioned for success. When you have negative momentum, the tide is turned against you. You face tough odds. You are outmatched. Your steps are uncertain. Sorry, I was terrified. The chat slowed down. Starforged? Why would you tell me that? I need it. This is so interesting. What a beautiful design. Yeah, you know what? That's a perfect connection. We talked about last week in finding the game for you. Reading other rule sets can take out burnout and maybe give you a mechanic to add to your games for fun. This right here, this system, there are ways that you could adapt it or change it if you just wanted to. Because I might have never known much. I didn't even really know much about this game existing, and I didn't even know that you could download the PDF for free from their website. I didn't even know that Roll20 had a character sheet for it until today. And this is a perfect circumstance for, like, last week we talked about finding the game for you, or finding the game that you want to run or you want to play. And I never knew that this game existed, but just the roles themselves and how the game outlines it and how the game defines the way they work, it might have been a moment where I just found a game for me that I didn't even know existed. I love this. So you gain momentum as an outcome or option when making moves. This represents securing advantages and making progress. If a move tells you to add momentum, phrased as blah, 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 increase your momentum track by the value indicated. The choices you make in a move or the assets you use to support the move may modify the amount rewarded. Awesome. Okay. And then you can lose momentum. Burning momentum is a powerful option to build on your success and deliver a decisive result or avoid dire failure. When you have a positive momentum after you roll your move, you may cancel any challenge dice that are less than the current momentum value and gives you an automatic hit, which is rad. If both challenge dice are less than your momentum value, you may cancel them both for a strong hit. If you burn momentum when only one of the challenge dice is less than your momentum value, the result of the other die stats give you a weak hit. So it's basically like what we saw before. You can negate some dice to make weaker strong hits. Neat as hell. Reset a momentum. After you burn momentum, you adjust the momentum track to your momentum reset value. Default is +2. May lower it by, okay, and you can have different things affect your character. Marking progress. There's so much. Okay. So this is a lot of the mechanical stuff and a lot of the basics, and that's important. But right now, let's make a character. Let's make a character for Ironsworn to help fight the burnout of just having to focus so much on other stuff that's happening when we're playing games. And then, maybe another one of these days, we'll have the Ironsworn Day and just see how this adventure goes. So envision the character. Be who you want. I am Dan Handsome. So stats. There are 5 stats. Each is given a value from 1 to 5. When you make a move, you roll the dice, usually add one of the stats. Start, arrange the bonuses across your 5 stats in any order. 3, 2, 2, 1, 1. So edge is quickness, agility, and prowess in ranged combat. Heart is courage, willpower, empathy, sociability, and loyalty. Iron is physical strength, endurance, aggressiveness, and prowess in close combat. Shadow, sneakiness, deceptiveness, and cunning. Wits, expertise, knowledge, and observation. I am definitely going to put a 3 in edge. I'm an edgelord. I regret that immediately. No, what am I doing? Why? Why am I the worst at this? Oh, I had opened it and just made it very small. Oops. Damn, handsome. That's accurate. So, a summary, yeah, let's do... We're going to put the 3 in edge. I have to hit the edit button. Not 13. 3 in edge, 2 in shadow, 2 in wits, and then 1 in the other 2. Right then and there, stats are done. Health. Health represents your current physical condition and stamina, ranked from 0 to 5. Health is reduced when you endure harm, and increased when you rest or receive care, through such moves as heal or sojourn. If you're at 0 health, scoring a miss when you endure harm puts you at risk of suffering a debility or dying. To start, set your health track to 5. I like also that it gives you the to start stuff as well, because it makes it easier, because then I'm asking the question, where do I start? Where am I at in this beginning? And it just tells me right then and there. Oh, it even starts at +5 because Roll20 is doing the work for me. Gosh, this system makes my life easier. Spiritual, current mental status. That starts at +5. Supply. Supplies decrease when you make the Undertake a Journey move. You might also reduce supplies and narrative costs when you face hardships. Face danger. Ford a Wild River, you might lose some gear as a result. The supply track represents the shared assets among your party, you and your allies. When your supply falls to 0, all characters make the out of supply move. If you're at 0, supply and suffer additional negative supply, you must each reduce your health, spirit, and momentum track by that amount. This is interesting. All right, to start, set it's 5. Roll20 has done that for me. I'm going to close that extra thing where I kept making a character because it's already done. Let's see. Momentum. I do have a personal channel. I don't really stream there as much. But yeah, if you go to my Twitter stuff, I talk about my stuff on Twitter all the time. I make a bunch of videos. This is primarily where you'll find me talking about game stuff or doing game stuff. The majority of this is a talk show, but I will also be doing games with other people, as well as just delving into other systems. And like now, I was talking about GM Burnout, but using it to explore other games and have fun. Okay, so the maximum momentum is +10. The reset starts at +2. Reduced by 1 for your mark of debility. Vows. All right, this is Ironsworn. When you swear an iron vow, you give it a rank: troublesome, dangerous, formidable, extreme, or epic, and record it on your character sheet. You can then use the vow progress to track to mark it when you reach a milestone. You start your first session with 2 values: a long-term goal, your background goal, and an immediate situation which must be dealt with your inciting incident. You'll find quest starters in Chapter 4, your world, Chapter 5, foes and encounters. All right, so that's starting vows. I'm going to hold off on that because those are further pages, but I just want to read the stuff. Bonds. As you build relationships and complete quests in the service of others, you can create bonds by making a forge a bond move. Interesting. Abilities. So there's conditions, there's banes, there's burdens, there's assets. Wow. 4 types of assets. You can mission max assets as much as you like, whatever fits your vision. So there's companions, which are like NPC helpers. There are paths, which represent backgrounds, interests, trainings, and skills. There are combat talents. Wield weapons, perform combat moves. Combat talent reflects a particular area of expertise. Okay. And there's rituals. There's so much. So we can go to the assets tabs. Bonds, progress. Okay, that makes more sense if there's a separate PDF. Yeah, okay. Okay. So right here. This is perfect. So envision your character. That's what we did. Name. We did that. And I like that there's a summary here. Set the health, spirit, and supply to 5. Set your momentum to 2. Your max momentum at +10. And your reset to 2. So let's look at momentum right now. Momentum is 2. Max is 10. Reset is 2. Perfect. It's done. Mark up to 3 background bonds. So, okay, 3 background bonds. You build relationships and complete quests, etc., etc. You should start your first session with up to 3 background bonds. Make note of the people or communities you share bonds with and mark up to 3 ticks in your background. Wow, there's a lot of detail in this. Okay, make your background bonds. Give yourself the 3 background bonds. It could be a community or an individual. If you're playing guided or co-op, if you'd rather jump in right away, you can flesh out the details of your background bonds later. Consider these bonds held in reserve until you decide to bring them into the narrative. If you introduce later a background bond for a character or community, mark the bond. Then envision how this bond was previously established. So I think Dan Handsome does have a bond. He has a bond with someone named Cam Handsome. It's his brother. Their brother from their Port Town home. Because let's see. You mark one bond for your home village. You also envision an NPC, clan overseer, who is a good and loyal friend. She is one of the few who knows of your former life as a raider, but does not hold it against you. We can remake ourselves, she once told you, like a broken sword reforged. You give her a name and mark the bond. You don't have any ideas for your third bond, so you keep it in reserve. That's it. Okay. Yeah. So, Cam Handsome, who is from the Port Town home, and I don't think I have to fill in the location, but I'm doing that anyways. And Cam Handsome is actually our twin brother. Better with a big axe than knives. Unlike me, but was always a good sibling. He was the less talkative and the more protective. But Cam is a good brother. And then we have a second one. Let's say Home Sweet Home. So it's Port Town, Augustus. A very loud and friendly place with colorful individuals and very little conflict. It had been raided years ago, but has recovered. I was only a kid when it happened, but I swore I wouldn't let it happen again. So right then off the bat, that is 2 background bonds. When you create your character, you give a background vow to represent primary motivation or ultimate goal. So I think right off the bat, when we were talking about the bond that we made based on the home, it would make sense for that to be a part of the backstory. It may be a vow sworn years ago or is a reaction to a major event. Write down a vow and give it a rank of extreme or epic. You don't need to make the swear an iron vow move for this quest. Fulfilling this vow will not be easy, and story time might require months, years, or even decades to see this vow fulfilled or forsaken. You may decide your background vow isn't something you make significant progress on in your narrative. Instead, it just helps establishing some role-playing detail for your character, fleshes out the world. Okay. Okay, so yeah, the vow is to keep the raids from home in any way, shape, or form. Because raiders came a long time ago, and it was good, but it should not begin, but to make it epic, because there's no way Dan Handsome could take on an entire legion of people by himself. That'd be ridiculous. Wouldn't stop him from trying, but... So then we have a background vow. Envisioning your inciting incident. An inciting incident is the problem which arrives at the beginning of a story, propelling the protagonist into action. Everything up to that point is backstory. So it makes a good one. Make it personal. Make it a problem that won't go away. Give it a ticking clock. To start your character's story, envision an imminent threat or compelling need. You can use a quest starter from this book, talk it out at the table, or ask the oracle. The problem dictates what your first session is, set the character's story in motion. I think a perfect one is that it looked like there were raiding scouts, probably in the distance, probably not so much from the water, but in the far woods. And they might not be coming nearby, but they exist there. And then it puts the rest of this world and the family in danger. So setting the scene, it talks about the normal word and in media res. It's a Latin term meaning in the middle of things. You start your story at a crucial point, which kind of feels fitting. I feel like if Dan Handsome is concerned about the raiders being nearby, he was talking to his brother Cam Handsome and saying that I need to go. I need to look. I need to check. To set your quest in motion as a response to an inciting incident, make this move. But first start with the fiction. Envision the scene, describe what you say and how you perform the ceremony. So I'd say Dan looks at Cam. He looks him in the eyes with worry but dedication in his heart. He tells him he's going to go figure out what that scouting party is doing, because he will not let them hurt his home, his family, the people that he knows. They have done it once, and they will not do it again. So we're going to swear an iron vow. And hopefully, it goes well. And that's using heart, it looks like. Oh, not good. So I rolled a 2. And the challenge dice was a 10 and a 6. It was a miss altogether. Did you score a miss? An unexpected danger or obstacle stands in your way. Envision what it is or ask the oracle. Then play to see what happens as you attempt to overcome this stumbling block. And this seems like this is a very loose way of how the game plays itself out. And it makes sense why it's a GM-less game. Because it's helping you decide yes and no the way things succeed and don't succeed. Because right off the bat, it's telling me that there is an obstacle. And with the obstacle for Dan Handsome and swearing a vow, you face a significant obstacle. You suffer -2 momentum and do what you must to overcome this obstacle, or you give up and forsake your vow. And that makes the story change. And right now, even though it has been a long week, even though I've been figuring out and prepping for games consistently, to be honest, just from doing all of this, going through that book and having this conversation and being excited about it, I don't feel the same weight of burnout that I did before. This is not a perfect fix. This is a step forward. But right now, Ironsworn looks wicked. And you can absolutely believe that just from today, I definitely want to spend one of these Fridays sitting and talking with all of you about it. And then probably even just recommend getting the character stuff together and then running through a session of Ironsworn together. Build a 2-hour story of what that Ironsworn situation was like. And then maybe that Ironsworn session, the solo session, might translate into how I GM and tell stories for other people in the future. I still am going to take breaks because I still need to. But that was like a productive break. It was a break that I still got to flex my brain and delve into something that I enjoyed. And it was just a change from what I usually do. It was a different step. It was something different. It was so much fun. And I'm really excited to see what comes next. Burnout is very real and it's terrifying. There are a lot of days that I struggle with it, especially when it comes to running games. But that doesn't stop me from trying, because if nothing else, I just need to take a break and come back when I feel actually up to it and ready. And if you need to take a break and come back when you feel up to it and ready, that's what I recommend too. Tabletop Tabletalk is literally just me trying to motivate you to feel better about running games, to feel better about telling stories, but also reduce and remove any pressure that you might feel when it comes to that stuff. Because games should be fun for everyone involved. I do my best to work hard and improve and make a difference when it comes to being a storyteller and a GM. And I'm far from perfect by a singular definition of the word, but I try to be perfect for the people that I talk to, I work with, and get a chance to be with. There are so many systems and games out there to explore, and so many that probably just don't get the same limelight that they should. Ironsworn, a prime example. I didn't know anything about it, and then I found it, and at least for that 40 minutes we talked about it, that time we sat here reviewing it, the feelings of burnout I had for a little bit were gone. And I'm excited to see what comes next. Sometimes you need to take a break. And if it's to the point where you're already past that point, take the break. Take the time. Do what you need to do. And if you can and you have the energy to do it, try to communicate that. Because the people that care will understand. And if people give you a hard time for needing to take care of yourself, there might be a better party for you. Whether we're talking about scope, whether we're talking about tone, whether we're talking about finding the game for you, whether we're just talking about being burned out even from doing something we love. Games should be fun. You deserve to have fun. And you are chaotically creative in the best ways. So I'll see you next week on Tabletop Tabletalk. Have a great day.